the SP404 Mark II. I've been wanting this for the longest time, not specifically this model, but the SP in general. I've been wanting this so much that I've kind of mimicked the effects in Logic. I will leave that in the description. But now that I have it, I have some thoughts. So a quick little overview of the body. So in the back it has a power, a DC in, a switch, a USB-C. It does not come with the USB though. MIDI in and out, and then a 1/4 inch line in and out. In the front it has again a 1/4 inch input, a switch between mic and instrument, and then a little volume knob, and of course your headphones out. You have 2 of them. So in the front you have, I guess, the kind of famous layout, the effects knobs alongside the effects button. It has a little LCD screens now. It has 17, I guess, velocity sensitive pads, and then the rest are just I guess regular button with this little multifunction knob. On initial glance, it is a little bit bigger than I was thinking. I guess the YouTube video doesn't really kind of show the size of this thing. It was also a little bit lighter than I was kind of hoping. But if you have the batteries inside of it, then I guess it's, for me at least, it's the right weight. Another thing that upon like first glance, I see a little bit of visual clutter, but it is okay, because I guess in order to have so much in this thing, every single button has to do more than one thing, so kind of have a multi-function workflow. So the visual clutter, it's on purpose, I guess. Although it's well laid out, so the visual clutter is not like everything doesn't really make sense. But there is a very big learning curve because of this idea of multi-functionalities, especially someone that like me that comes from Logic, like the DAW mindset. There is like a little bit of kind of workaround, and the workflow is not as kind of Logic way, I guess. One of these workflow is for example the pattern. So for example, I have these hi-hats right here, and if I want to maybe, let's say, record this, there is obviously something wrong with the hi-hats. If I want to kind of edit what I just did, there is undo, I guess, but there is no way that I can edit without necessarily involving deleting things in some ways. That was kind of a thing that that was a little bit hard. Not necessarily hard, but it's the learning curve. Another thing also is the kind of performance side, I guess. For example, if you have, I will just go on to the DJ mode, because that is kind of cool. The EQs. Now, of course, you have bus effects that you can apply filters and things like this. But if you want to play so this track has a lot of lows, highs, and mids. If I want to apply something or play something on top of it, for example, if I want to play like some sort of performance on top of it, I haven't really found a way to put an EQ on the things that I'm playing on top of this track. So the kind of signals might be like fighting. Of course, it is kind of, you have to I guess prepare in advance to kind of remove all the lows from your samples, and then once you do the performance thing. But even in the kind of mixing in general, like if I want to play 2 tracks at the same time, they will be eventually kind of clashing. So for example, if I have this playing, and even though I sync, the syncing is also the whole BPM detection in itself is a little bit strange, but I'll go on to that later. But if I have these 2 tracks playing at the same time, I have the buses effects that I can eventually use to kind of put some sort of EQs. but to play these track at the same times, it's a little bit hard. I think that I want to remove. I want to use the kick from the channel 1 and then the highs from channel 2s. So yes, I haven't found how to do it, but yes, it's a little bit strange. These are mainly me trying to adapt to this workflow. As I mentioned, I'm very new to this, so there are many things that I've missed. But luckily, there is a ton of videos, tutorial discussions on YouTube's and Reddit and things like that. So how does this unit fits in my kind of whole environment? This is very much a workstation on its own, so I can just use this. Another thing also is that it fits well within my kind of desktop settings. Right now I have it plugged in via USB, and also I have the headphones out as kind of going into my instrument input. This also works as a MIDI MIDI controller in Logic with all the velocity sensitivity and stuff like that. That is kind of cool. But yes, it fits well in my current setup. That is, I think, kind of cool. But also it is a standalone unit on its own if you want to kind of take it out of the setup. One thing also that I've noticed is that this kind of pushes me to, I guess, rework some tracks or explore different ideas, meaning that oftentimes I just have like random ideas in Logic or like unfinished, or I run out of inspiration while I was making something. This kind of pushes me to maybe export the stems of that, like random ideas, and then just put it in here. Different workflow triggers different creativities. So I just like put stuff in here and then start working on it. It fits well in the environment, but also as a standalone unit, you kind of can use this as like a chain of next thing to do when you kind of run out of inspirations. So prior to choosing this, of course, there were I guess consideration, maybe competition to this specific unit, which is the Mark II. Things like the Digitech, I guess, the circuit rhythm. But for me personally, the thing that it came up to me as the main consideration with this was the Akai MPC 500. Although a little bit older, also that kind of means that it was cheaper than this. But I really did consider that. Of course, as you see, I ended up with the Mark II. The main reason why I chose this, one is its portability. My whole setup is very much focused on desktop and sitting to make stuff. So there is not a lot of room to move around and do something outside of my desk. This is very much needed, and also you gotta touch grass, man. I gotta touch grass. This kind of allows me to go outside, especially in this type of season. Another thing that made me chose this was the DJ thing. I was I guess a DJ when I was a teenager, so this kind of allowed me to kind of re-enter that word again, being like performative side of music. It's pretty cool, kind of spontaneous little sparks of ideas. So that is one thing that I mainly consider on this. Of course, many things will have to come with after I kind of have an idea of the learning curve. Then yeah, many things will come with the DJ setup. Not necessarily just the DJ setup, but the performance itself. The DJ setup has been introduced only onto this Mark II version. But prior to this, many people has been kind of performing on the SPs. So, those are kind of things to explore. So yes, portabilities and performance. So there are things that I'm not going to say that are necessarily issues or bad things, but I would say that things that I was not necessarily ready for. One of these things is the sample rate. So for example, I think this only support to a certain sample rate. I think it's 41 kilohertz, I think. In my use case, I have a lot of samples or one shots that are outside of that range. Because of this, I will have to resample a lot of my samples, my one shots. That was a little bit strange. It was a little bit frustrating to kind of figure that out. Another thing also is the pads. As I mentioned, the pads are velocity sensitive. I mean, it means just my kind of workflow in general. I don't really use velocity sensitive from the units. I have my launch pad. I disable the velocity sensitive from that. I kind of go straight from 0 to 127. And then if there is anything that I need to change, I just go into Logic and change it. But I don't really mind the velocity sensitivity things. But on this specific unit, which is the Mark II, I feel like you have to kind of really hit it to get the most, to get to the 127 value of the pads, which I think is a little bit weird. I wish there was a way that I can maybe adjust the level of sensitivities. Of course, you can easily disable the velocity, so use this as fixed velocity. But the thing about that is that oftentimes if you use fixed velocity, your things will eventually clip because you have different samples at different volume. Of course, you can just change the volume of your samples from the pitch speed menu. That is kind of a thing that you have to consider again, doing all of this for different samples at different volumes. So yes, I wish there was kind of a way to adjust the velocity sensitivities of the unit, of the pad, sorry. I'm not sure if there is. I mean, if there is, please let me know. But I haven't found anything other than turn it off and then adjusting this. Another thing also is I guess this is not really, I mean, this is just me personally. I wish there was a battery indicator. You can power this three ways: either USB or the DC in, or 6 AA's batteries. I wish there is like maybe 3 bars indicators in the batteries, because the other day I was going to like take this out. I plugged in my batteries, which, you know, just left it in. And then after like a few minutes, it says that, you know, battery is low, it will turn off. So it turns off. Of course, after a while, I guess you kind of get into the habits of charging your batteries before leaving, or just go to power banks. Yes, but yeah, that's, as I mentioned, this is kind of just my little thing. I wish there was a battery indicator. But all in all, a great unit, great little portable sampler, effects box, performance unit, you name it. I'm really leaning towards the portability of this unit. As I mentioned, my main use case would be to have this and take this anywhere, and then start creating, performing, and all of this. But as I mentioned, there is a little bit of a learning curve. As kind of a learning curve, the more time you spend with it, the more you kind of develop a workflow. Another thing that I kind of find pretty cool about this is the communities. Of course, you know, the SP is very well known. And the cool thing is that it has, at least from what I saw, it has a more, I guess, a bigger range of genre of creators. So that is kind of cool. And also the manufacturer support, you know, software support and firmware are expensive, I guess. So it's kind of cool that the manufacturer dedicates times and resources to constantly improving this, or at least as of now. I know that a few weeks ago, a new firmware update just came out, kind of added features and things like that. So that is pretty cool. Another thing also is that this, I guess, is my introduction to the DAWless world. I've been kind of peeking into the DAWless world for a while now, but not just DAWless world, but DAWless performance. So I guess this is kind of my first step into that. I don't think I'll be a fully DAWless person. It's pretty cool, man. I like that this is kind of my first introduction to that. I would not have expected any other unit, I guess, to kind of push me into that. Maybe like synths or things like that, but as a sampler, this, I guess, will be the quote-unquote perfect introduction to DAWless world, at least for me. So yeah, let me know do you think this is a good introduction to DAWless? As I mentioned, there are the learning curves that I mentioned earlier, but any tips, anything I would greatly appreciate it. But yes, thank you for watching, and then I'll catch you on the next one.